Good morning, everybody. Welcome to an emergency breaking news pod here at PHNX Rising. Incredible news coming out this morning. You could definitely tell if you're watching this live that Owen and I had just woken up when these news came out. But we appreciate you being here with us so early. If we're a little bit out of it, it's because we have not drank our coffee yet, as you can clearly see. But we're here for one reason, and that is because Phoenix Rising and their head coach, Rick Schantz, have mutually parted way, according to their press release. Big news coming out this morning. Owen, you kind of had a feeling this might have happened. This might happen because of what you saw on at Orange County this Friday. So this weekend, I mean. So can you walk us through what's been going on and why you had that feeling?
Yeah, well, it was a mixed bag, right? So Rick, for anyone who's wondering, Rick traveled home alone on the weekend, and I know that because he was on the same plane as me. Happens sometimes, but it just felt a little bit off. It didn't feel quite right, but wasn't quite expecting it to break in the way that it did this Wednesday. Of course, in many ways, it's not a shock that this week is the week that they chose to do something. It's the longest break this team has until the end of the season. So, in that kind of 2-week spell, and knowing that ultimately they've had a few days off, it hasn't really impacted training. There was time to make a decision and think about this after the weekend, but ultimately, yeah, now they're back in training today. Danny Stone will be taking over, the assistant coach. He will be taking over as the interim coach while we wait as the headhunt for a new manager starts.
Do you think Danny Stone will finish out the season as interim, or do you think they're finding someone right now?
I think it depends. I feel like they have to be searching for someone right now, purely on the fact that I don't anticipate Danny Stone holding that position long term. I don't foresee this being something like when Rick Schantz took over as the interim in 2018 and made it through until now, literally this morning. But I do feel as though it's hard to answer that because it depends who the preferred candidate is. If it's someone who's currently coaching another club, you're probably going to give them till the end of their season, which means that Danny Stone in turn will hang around in the interim. So we'll see. I see some names are being thrown out in the chat here. A lot of people cheering on Jay Mims as their next coach, of course, the Union Omaha coach. People are quite enamored by the success he's had there with younger players, with doing well in the league, we're doing well in the Open Cup. We've got a comment here of Winalda to Phoenix. Well, Eric Winalda, we've known for weeks has had an interest in this job. It was just a question of what happened. Elizabeth here with Edwin for coach. Well, shout out to Dedwin. It's his birthday today.
Happy birthday, Edwin. Look at him.
For his birthday, he gave us content.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah, definitely some crazy news today. It hasn't worked out this season. We'll just kind of touch on that a little bit before we continue. But a lot of people on Twitter, as soon as this news came out, someone in specifically USL Tactics talked about how Rising was supposed to be one of the best teams this season. He noted that it seemed like Rick had lost the locker room midway through the season. The tactics weren't there, and he goes on to break down what tactics more specifically the pressing and the ball control of the team. And it just seemed, like at a certain point, you and I, Owen, we kind of figured that that had happened in the locker room, and you could see it, kind of creeping out onto the field as well. And so it's hard to get rid of a coach that has brought so much to Rising. I know the chat, we've seen this for months that they were not happy with the team and the way it was being managed. But looking at the history of Rick Schantz, starting as an interim coach and bringing them that much success, it's a big change. And, we have to acknowledge that, first of all, I don't like anyone losing their job. This is, how they pay their bills. But, Rick Schantz has done a lot for Phoenix Rising, and it's turning over like a huge page in the Phoenix Rising book. Like, it's going to be a new start, and it's going to be different from now on.
Indeed it is. Look, he's someone who accomplished a lot here. You look at the things, he took them to 2 finals, ultimately won the regular season title here, But this season, it just wasn't working. And the problem with that is that it's not like a player can have an off season and then bounce back. Once a team has turned against you, it's very, very hard. And shout out to Harry there in the chat. Been so long since we've seen your last show. Yeah, last night when none of us were expecting this news really to break this morning. But it just hit a point whereby it's hard to rebuild from that. Once a squad has turned, you either gut the squad or you change the leadership. In this case, they've decided to go with changing the leadership. It does give an opportunity to get a better view here of what players realistically should stay here into the long-term future now, because we started to see some of that change that was needed. Now, Danny Stone, of course, someone who's traveled around a lot, mostly an assistant coach, done a lot of work with youth teams. He actually came in here and had a lot more of a role with the academy. So we'll see how he steps up in this case. It's a lot of questions, I suppose, over whether he is going to, turn it around himself, but I don't know.
Well, based on his experience, do you feel like he has the capable tools? Again, 10 games left, 5 points out of the last playoff spot. It is doable. Rising
very
not
doable.
out yet. Yeah. So do you think, he is capable of turning this team around and hopefully seeking them into the playoffs?
With a bit of luck and dealing with some of the problems that they have had off the field, I quite frankly think that most people with half a football brain could lead this team into the playoffs with the squad they've got. That's the problem, is that the squad is great on paper. It's a fantastic USL squad on paper. They just haven't been doing it. Now, the question is, how do you kind of fix that? How do you fix those issues off the field, especially when, look, it's hard to tell, knowing, what's been going on with off the field stuff, whether Danny carries that same kind of taintedness, let's say, going forward. I don't know. I really can't comment on the kind of spread of things back there. I just do not know. But it's tough, isn't it? It's tough.
Let's see, Harry here with a question. My question is, can you see any late roster movements? I don't know. I don't think so. I'd be really surprised.
I will say that Bobby Dooley, of course, remains as general manager at the moment, at least. There's no comment to suggest that he won't be remaining here. The fans, of course, were chanting for both of them. So there is a degree of continuity there. It's possible that if Bobby's identified some errors himself, maybe he'll wait to make some moves. I don't know. I feel as though there is a chance that this is the catalyst for a turnaround, but I don't know if it will be. Now, people in the chat here with for now, Bobby up next, Dooley out.
A lot of people on Twitter were comparing the situation to Orange County's last year, where they got rid of a coach that had a lot of tenure in that team, and ultimately making that change led them to going on this postseason run and ultimately getting the championship. So is this situation comparable to their situation last year? And, is it, it's definitely possible, but do you think Rising can go on that kind of run?
I think once you make it into the playoffs, it's possible. The problem that Rising are going to have is that, unlike Orange County, who made a change earlier, well, that was mostly the thing. They made the change earlier. They had enough time to make it not only make it into the playoffs, but to secure what was a mostly home field advantage. Again, look, to John's point here, 30% playoff odds or 35%, that's great. You can get into the playoffs on those odds, especially if the team actually wake up and play a lot better than they've been playing in recent weeks. But the problem you've got is that you're going to be playing pretty much all of those games away from home. Let's not forget that Orange County played each game in the Western Conference playoffs at home. And that makes a huge difference. Rising won't have that luxury. So do I see the team getting into the playoffs? It's very possible. Do I see the team possibly winning a first round game? Again, with the quality of this squad, very possible. Do I see them winning it all? I still struggle to see it, just because there's too much traveling that would have to be involved.
Yeah, and the way we've seen the team play, I know, now that Rick is gone, it's going to be hopefully a lot more different, but yeah, those odds are not great. John Morrissey here in the chat, shout out to him. Yeah, 35% on his end, 30% from 538 playoff odds, not looking good. And so it all starts in a couple of weeks. They're Rising have a bit of a break right now. Well, I'm sure they're still training, but next week when they head to El Paso, that's gonna paint a better picture on exactly what's going to happen for the remaining games of the season once they travel to El Paso. Again, we saw El Paso, and shout out to them, man. That game they had against Colorado was impressive, and that's the kind of fight that all of us are looking forward from seeing from this rising team. And so if that happens, I could see them going into the plus, but it has to start now. There's no more time, too little, too late. That might be the case if they're not able to get a result in their next game.
Indeed. But look, to one comment in here, Harry just pointing out that changing the playoff rules with the top seed plays the lowest seed left. That makes it tougher for lower seeds. Well, yes, but also I'll tell you this. There's one team that's sitting there in first seed that for whatever reason can't seem to buy a win against Phoenix Rising this season. So they can't even find a goal against Phoenix Rising. Arguably, it's San Antonio who lost 2-0 and 3-0 against Rising this year. Shout out to Reese as well in here. With, I'm back, teacher caught me. That's dedication tuning into PHNX Rising at school.
No, shout out to Reese.
We definitely don't encourage that kind of behavior, but maybe we do.
Marcus here is saying Rising better have that dog in them. I agree. They need it. They need it right now. All right, y'all. Let's take a quick break and talk about our friends at OG's. They have the sweepstakes going on right now called Flavoring Life Sweepstakes. And if you sign in and submit to be part of that sweepstakes, the winner, if you win, you will receive 3 bags of OG's, including orange creamsicle and tropical flavors, an OG's hat, a PHNX shirt of your choice, and a PHNX annual membership. And the way that you can sign up for this sweepstake is by going to phnx.com or by clicking the link in our show notes. And then, I mean, I'm sure a lot of the people currently in the chat look like Derek, smiling. But if you win the Flavoring Life sweepstakes, you can also look like Derek. You can also check out OG's online at ogsbrands.com and on Instagram at ogsbrands. And you can also find their products at your local dispensary. And remember, guys, you must be 21 years or older to purchase. So shout out to our friends at OG's. All right, Owen. Yeah, should
we take a look at the statements that we'll put out as part of the club press release today? Okay, so here's what Rick Schantz had to say. I'll read it out. I want to thank the owners, staff, and especially all the players I was fortunate to work with these past 5 years. I have put my heart and soul into Phoenix Rising. It's now time to turn over this amazing club to a fresh voice. I will forever remember the great moments we've had together. So, yes, look, I don't think we can question the fact that he's put his heart and soul into this club. I will say there's one group there that he didn't mention. Michael's just pulled it up in the chat, but there is one group that was not mentioned as he was thanking people in there. And it was the fans.
That's a little pointed, yeah.
Look, the thing is, the fans definitely, or a large portion of the fans, let's be clear here, have decided to make their voices heard. We saw that with the banner at the one game, the Rick, thanks for the memories, but it's time to say goodbye. We saw that with some of the chanting after games. Look, at the last home game, we both we were discussing after the game, weren't we, that you can hear the chanting on the back of the press conference audio. You can hear it. I don't know. It's just...
Yeah,
it feels as though everything that dragged on this season, some of the comments that were made, all of that really just served. And some of the feeling of uneasiness between the fans and what they saw or believed to see happening off the field. Look, it's...
I think Max is right.
It just soured things. And Max is right here with the off-field words over the years then did much of the good on-field actions. I agree. I mean, we saw it this year with the comments like the 2 years on contract. Again, that's something that... it rubbed people, even people around the league were commenting on the fact that if that was their coach making comments like that, they would probably make the move there and then. Because it's just, I mean, the shrug, it's just emotions. It was so many things that just... This is a guy who did so much over the years. We can't question that. He did. He did put a lot into Phoenix Rising, and he achieved a lot here. But some of the things that have happened this season in particular are only serving to taint some of that legacy. And it's disappointing. You never want to see that. You always hope that ultimately a coach can go out on terms that are good, that they've achieved a lot of success, and they can go down as kind of a hero. The problem that we've got now is that we have to discuss somewhat, is Rick Schantz leaving as a hero?
Mm-hmm.
Is this a breath of relief from the fans? Is it a celebration some appear to be celebrating? It's such a mixed
Yeah.
bag, or are some people genuinely disappointed? We know that there are some people in all of those camps. The question
Mm-hmm.
is, which is the predominant one at this point?
Yeah, and we talked about it earlier, but you specifically, Owen, you said how long? What's the timeline when it comes to, hey, you're ruining your legacy and what you did here by just staying longer and continuing to kind of make these comments and acting the way that you're doing? What's the scale there? And ultimately, to me, I think at this point, it's going to be a sour taste in a lot of people's mouths. They're not going to like what happened this season. They're not going to like his reactions during the press conferences, but once the dust settles down a little bit, maybe 6 months, a year, people will look back and say, at least in my opinion, it's like, hey, Rick brought this team forward. Ultimately, it didn't work out as far as getting the ultimate goal of winning a championship, but he did do a lot. It didn't work out that last season, but I feel ultimately, in most people's eyes, he'll be looked at as a coach that did help this team move forward. So, and something that's all that you can do. Not everybody can win a championship. That's the reality of this business. And but by holding on a little bit too long, it might have tainted his legacy. But it happens sometimes.
But I mean, the question, I'll put this to you, Ramon, is that, look, it's, if you could have picked almost any genuine professional football coach and given them the kind of squads that Rick has had to work with over the seasons, then would they have not probably achieved the same success?
Yeah. I mean, and the thing as well is that we got to realize too that they had a canceled final basically in 2020. So let's say he goes out and
he didn't get them all the way there. Blair Gavin got 2 of those games in the playoffs out of the 3 that they played.
Yeah. So, but would that have made a difference if they got that championship? Does that make sense? So it's yeah. So I feel ultimately he'll look better in the long run than he does now. Based on just what he was able to accomplish.
I will say that the chat does not agree with you there.
No, and that's fine. That's fine. I can definitely see their point of view as well. So yeah, shout out to Edwin here in the chat. Appreciate it, y'all. Miss working on show. May need to make an appearance soon again. There we go. See, maybe if we have Edwin back, Rising will get back to their winning ways, because he made it clear yesterday in our text message group that before him they were winning and after him they were not. So we'll see.
Yeah, maybe we'll work out a trade. We're currently working on things. Maybe we'll find a way of bringing Edwin back.
Rising, yeah, we'll figure something out. Would you say some trash cans?
I'm sure there are plenty of trash cans around the Phoenix Rising Stadium that we can send over to Houston. Yes.
Oh my God. All right, y'all. Let's take another quick break and talk about our friends at DraftKings. If you guys haven't yet, you guys can download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. And since it's college season, when you use promo code PHNX College Football Season, when you use promo code PHNX, you can bet just $5 on college football and get $200 in free bets instantly. And that's code PHNX only at DraftKings Sportsbook. So we'll see. And make sure to check out the ASU show. They got a lot of good stuff coming up with college football season right around the corner. I'm going to have to get myself down there to one of these games because I haven't been since I was in high school. So it was a very long time ago.
I tell you what you want to come out with. You want to come out and see the ASU women's soccer team. They're starting their season this week. They've got a game tomorrow and another one on Sunday. So
that's true. And
speaking of players in there.
Yeah. We'll see. We'll see if I can make one out. I would definitely be interested in going out there. So, but yeah, make sure to download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. And again, use promo code PHNX when you make your bets. All right, Owen. It is, what time is it? At 9:40?
9:40 in the morning. This is such a weird feeling. I mean, we're doing PHNX Rising with coffee.
Con cafecito en la mañana. Yeah, my dog is like, what are you doing here, man? You told me you were not going to be here anymore. And she's wants to go on a walk right now. So I'm sorry, Bella. We'll go in a minute. But yeah, it's still, it's weird, I've been covering this team for a short time. You definitely longer, Owen, but you've gotten to see Rick from the beginning of his tenure till now. As someone that covers the team, how does that feel to you, to see that kind of the entire, I guess, tenure of Rick and what happened with the club and ultimately the way it ended?
I feel like it's When people say, look, a new chapter for a coach, then they're correct normally, yes. But this feels slightly more substantial than that. This is a coach
Mm,
who has been around for the vast majority of this club's existence under its
mm,
current identity. And that makes a big difference. Look, this is someone who stepped in 2017, who stepped in 2018 as interim, and then from 2019 onwards has had the job in his own right. This club has been shaped entirely right now on the field by Rick Schantz. This is his squad in its entirety. It's being made in the kind of image that he wants it to be. At the end of the day, even looking tactically, we have to question, where do things go from here? Because everything has been built around this idea of how Rick wants to play, but there's
yep.
no guarantee that a new coach is going to want to play in the same way. So are we going to see something that we've kind of gotten used to seeing as the Phoenix Rising way, the Phoenix Rising style? Is that it's disappeared this year in some ways just because they can't execute it for whatever reason?
Mm-hmm.
But are we going to see that change? Are we going to see a new coach come in who's got different ideas? Maybe we'll see a team that is more defensive minded. Maybe we'll see a team that doesn't play in a 4-3-3, that maybe uses other kinds of tactics in there. It's hard to tell. It's when a coach leaves like this, it leaves so much out in the just up in the air. We don't know quite what comes next. And a lot of that comes down to who comes in.
Mm-hmm.
Now, normally, look, a lot of the other sports over here, you can have the discussion about who comes in and you've got a limited pool of candidates. The pool of candidates for this job is so large that it's hard to really get into who it is. We know, obviously, there are some people who've had their names thrown forward that people want. Obviously, Jay Mims, we brought it up earlier in the show. Eric Winalda's got some interest. We brought that up earlier in the show. Bye to Reese, by the way. He's off to do more school. Make good decisions, Reese. But you look at the other kind of names that have vaguely been thrown around in the past. Blake Gavin, would he come back? Would Ian Russell come from Toronto? Who knows? Who knows? And even then, you can cast the net wider and say bring in people from other parts of the world. I mean, look, Patrice Carteron came in from seemingly nowhere from Phoenix Rising's perspective, wasn't coaching over here and made them move. So there is a big, vast area to try and capture a new person in. And the question now is who ultimately gets the job. And I feel like we're a few weeks away at least from actually discovering the answer to that.
Yeah, we'll see. Well, I mean, we've heard of Eric Winalda just kind of throwing his hat in there as well and saying, "Hey, I'm interested in
consistently throwing his hat in the
ring.
ring.
I want to coach this team." So, maybe he's giving them a call right now. So it's interesting. We'll see what happens with that. It's, Rick Schantz was, so ingrained in the DNA of what Rising was. So it's exciting to see what's going to happen next. But like exactly to your point, Owen, it might not look like the Rising teams that we're used to seeing out on the pitch. So it's exciting, but it's also a little bit scary because we've seen situations where a new coach comes in and it's not able to work out, or it takes maybe a season or two to kind of get back to the standard that, the team had set. So we'll see what happens. There's definitely expectations with this team, given the talent that they currently have. But we just talked about this yesterday. Do you get rid of the team or do you get rid of the coach? And, yesterday I was just saying they're not going to get rid of the coach. And then this happens this morning. So we'll see.
I see there's one comment in here referencing the old El Paso coach, so Mark Lowry. He's actually struggling a lot this season with Indy 11.
Mm-hmm.
So
it looked like he turned it around a little bit, but they just kind of...
It didn't work. It didn't really work, no. So that one's a real struggle, what's going on up in Indy at the moment. Steven Hernandez here with anyone who thinks Winalda's an upgrade apparently didn't watch Vegas a few seasons ago.
Yeah, to be fair, I'm not saying he's the guy, but I'm just saying he's trying to get his way in. All right, Max here. Even though Rising fell from the heights of USL's poster child, phenomenal record, great fan culture, $1 beer night in precious years, the club will attract someone notable and of proven quality. And I don't think that's a question either. I think a lot of quality candidates are going to be either calling in or Rising is going to be making a call and saying, "Hey, we got the spot available. What do you think?"
I will say there's a comment here about Wangera. There's a comment on the Aldrino guy, Ian Russell. He's currently an assistant coach in MLS. And there's a comment here about report of Mark Briggs and Wangera being targeted options. Look, to Mark Briggs, I'd be surprised. To Juan, I'd also be a little bit surprised if it happened this year. Just because I feel like poaching a coach in their first season as a head coach while they're currently ongoing in a club, to me, he's probably going to stay there the rest of the year if he stays there. Briggs would surprise me because Sacramento are another relative powerhouse in this league, and departing one of them for Phoenix Rising, and unless we're talking of sheer blowing them out of the water with money, which presuming Rising has, given it's a mutual agreement, had to pay off Rick in some way, shape, or form, I'd be surprised. I would be surprised. We'll see. But there's a lot to digest, a lot of options that they could possibly go down. Did your dog pop up there, Ramon?
Yeah, she won't leave me alone. Yeah, I'm sorry. There you go. I don't know if you guys can see her.
A shout out to Max here saying Ian Russell's a players coach. Club needs that. Max, of course, bit of background with a certain club that Ian Russell may have been involved with. So
certain club, yeah. Shout out to Max there in the chat. I'll finish off here with this question, Owen. How soon does Rick Schantz maybe get another job in this league?
Oh, it's a good question. I don't know. I really don't know. It feels as though, and by the way, the chat now is demanding that you introduce Bell.
Come here. Oh, there we go. All right, here we go. Say hi real quick. All right. Oh, there we go.
Would like to shout out Phoenix Rising's new head coach.
Is it Bella? No, it's not.
Yeah. No. Look, it's going to take a while, possibly, just because I feel as though it's more likely to be an off season. I don't know. It could be a while.
Yeah.
Possible, as in by a while, I mean into the off season. I mean not over the some of the other teams that have currently got vacancies. But I don't know.
I mean, given his resume, I know he didn't win a championship, but he did accomplish a lot. So I'm wouldn't be surprised if a team just says, you know what, hey, he's available. He's willing to coach. He's maybe has kind of like that, that itch in his back to kind of just say, hey, I can do it with another team. I wouldn't be surprised to see him, maybe in another team. So we'll see.
The comment here about did Rick really earn that job? So he did come up. It was before Phoenix Rising bought Tucson. He was brought up as an assistant coach by the then coach, whose name I'm blanking on for reasons completely unknown. God, what is his name? The Ipswich guy, Frank Yallop. Brought him up. He's now at Monterey Bay. Yeah. He brought him up as an assistant coach. They'd met in Tucson during MLS preseason, and he ultimately got the assistant coach job here, and then stepped up multiple times as an interim when needed. Look, as Bobby's saying here, he'd rather the ownership take their time and get the right guy. I tend to agree with that. I feel that this next decision, the first guy to come in after Rick, is going to be a massive, massive decision for this team in terms of where they go from here. Do they rebound and go back to the kind of top of the league kind of positioning that they had for so many years? Or do they kind of stagnate or only grow very slowly? And a lot of clubs, we've seen this. I know there's a certain club of some that you seem to like there, Ramon, that have bounced around from coach to coach in recent years. But it happens. It happens. It's tough because bringing someone in after a very, very long spell by another coach is a huge decision to make. And ultimately, not many coaches can actually hang around for that kind of tenure. Rick was one of the top 3 or 4, I believe, coaches in terms of time served when he departed the club today. So, yeah, it's a tough one to say. But yes, take the time, get the decision right. Do not rush, given that, and Scott, we went through a few of them earlier in the show. Again, though, it's a really, really vast ocean to cast the net over. It's tough. It's tough to work out exactly where you want to go with this. But just got to make sure that the other question, I've seen this thrown around, will it actually come sooner rather than later simply for the reason that the ownership have actually been digging for someone all this time. They
Mm.
didn't view Danny Stone as being a long-term interim, and therefore wanted to have a coach nigh on lined up by the time they made a decision. I've seen that tossed around by people, including people within the league. We'll wait and see. We'll wait and see on that one.
Yeah, we'll keep you updated with everything that's going on. If it happens at 6 in the morning, we'll do another emergency pod.
Not at 6 in the morning.
At 6? You're not down for 6.
maybe if they're in RGV, and then it's like 8 for me, but I'm not getting up at 6.
Oh, look at that, John Morrissey. Yeah, look at here.
Oh, John Morrissey.
Some insight. Look at that. This is the type of quality you get. PHNX Rising. John Morrissey says, "I've heard they got the guy already, but he'll finish out 2022 with his current club. Grain of salt, though." Interesting. We'll leave you with that one here, chat. Thank you, John Morrissey, and everybody here for joining us this morning. Appreciate you joining us in this emergency pod. Like we said, this was like a big, surprise this morning. We were both waking up, and so
phone just goes off. Oh, he's gone. What?
So we'll see what happens. So yeah, like I said, we'll keep you updated with everything. Make sure to follow us on our Twitter account, PHNX__rising. With any breaking news, we'll make sure to fill you in there. And yeah, hopefully we don't have to do another emergency pod during this week, but otherwise we will be back next Tuesday, and we'll be talking more Rising. Any last words, Owen?
I feel like we've finally managed to rid ourselves of one of the conversation points now that has been ongoing for so long. Look, I will say it's going to be a weird one going forward now. It's going to be weird going out to Rising and not having Rick around, but we'll have to see what the future holds for the club.
For sure. All right, y'all, that is it for us here. Thank you so much to Shane, our producer, for waking up with us as well. And again, we'll keep you up to date on everything on our Twitter account, PHNX__rising, as well as our Discord chat. All right, y'all, have a great morning. If you haven't gotten your coffee, make sure to do that. Get some work done, get some breakfast. Yeah.
Or in Reese's case, pay attention to your lesson in school.
Pay attention to class. All right, y'all, that's it from us. See you later. Hope you have a great rest of your day. Until next time, see you later.